Saturday, 71 degrees, and it's pouring rain. Thunderstorms where the hot air is colliding with the cold air that's coming down from the north, and it's really raining hard. John, the Gospel of John. Suppose I started this whole message today by saying, "These things I have spoken to you that you may have my joy, and that your joy may be made full." You say, wait a minute, where's the first part of this message? How could he start out with "these things I have spoken to you"? Well, actually, that's verse 11 of chapter 15. Jesus spoke some things that was to allow the disciples to know that they could have full joy. And they hopefully listened to what he said before he made that final closing summary. A number of years ago, I was here in North Carolina on vacation. During the winter, a storm had come through, and there was some damage done to a large black cherry tree at the top of our driveway. It was necessary to take a limb that had been broken and cut it off with a chainsaw. I was also preparing a message from John 15. So I took about a 6-foot length of that cherry tree branch, and I loaded it up in the car, and I brought it back to Southside Baptist Church as a visual aid for the message. What was the message? Jesus said, "I am the true vine. The Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit." Now, it's really interesting, this section of scripture, because we have no fruit, some fruit, much fruit, and firewood. And I held that branch up in front of the congregation and said, "I'm just waiting to get some beautiful black cherries off of this branch." Well, everybody laughed, of course. You can't take a branch off of a tree and then expect it to bear fruit. And that's exactly what Jesus was saying with this visual aid, a farming illustration. You've got to abide in him. You've got to be connected to the source. And so he says, if you're not in me and I'm not in you, you're not going to bear any fruit. But he did give some other examples. He said, if you're abiding in me, but you're not bearing any fruit, the vine dresser, the Father, takes it away, takes the branch away. And he says, in the branches that are bearing fruit, he prunes so that they can bear more fruit. Now, in that same garden, in the top of my driveway, there's a peach tree. I have yet to get more than one good peach from that peach tree. There have been a lot of speculation about what's wrong, but there are a number of things wrong, obviously. But one of the things that's wrong is that it wasn't pruned properly. It has too many shoots going off into the sun straight up. Peach tree needs to be pruned. And it needs to be pruned to produce more fruit, not less fruit. This year, when the season is over and cold weather comes in, I plan to prune back that peach tree so that it'll produce more fruit. Now, pruning isn't always pleasant. I hate to cut anything that looks like good growth off, and I think a lot of us don't want to be pruned by God. But many times he's forced to prune us to get rid of shoots that aren't where they need to be and not producing fruit, but just taking strength from the tree. So we have no fruit. Even if they're abiding in him, those branches have to be taken off. We have those that are bearing fruit, they need to be pruned so they can produce more fruit. And then we have much fruit, the ones that are truly in that abiding relationship with Jesus Christ. But the story doesn't end there. He says, those that are not abiding in him, they're taken off and they're cast away and they dry up and they're cast into the fire. No fruit, some fruit, much fruit, firewood. Now, it sounds like a harsh lesson. It's not a pie in the sky, everything's going to work out all right kind of message. You see, even if you're bearing fruit, God may have to do some pruning, and that's not much fun. And certainly there's the message about those that are not even abiding in him, who will be taken off, cast out, dried up, and used for firewood. But for those that will listen and obey, verse 11 says, these things I have written to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be made full. I hope that you'll think about that. Think about that cherry tree and that branch. It wasn't even connected. It was no good for anything but firewood. Let's so abide in him, we produce fruit. And when there are things that come into our lives that don't belong there, let's yield to him and let him prune us so that we can produce much fruit, so that your joy may be full. Your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.